Guys, hey, I am here today to let you know that your life matters. I don't care what nobody tells you. I don't care who you don't think is there for you. Your life matters. And your life should matter more to you than it do to anybody else. You were created to be great. You are not just here by accident. You are here for a purpose. So you have to figure out, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Did I just show up just for no reason? Was I just born to live and just to die and nothing in between? No. You are here for a purpose. And the reason I know that is because I was once a teenager. And I felt like I didn't have a purpose. I could never figure out why I was created to just not amount to anything. I mean, this is real talk, guys. I'm talking to y'all real talk. I showed up today for you. I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. And I'm going to be as transparent with my own life and hoping that by me showing you how I came up will be an inspiration to you to not give up on your own life. So, who am I? I was adopted by my grandparents from my mother at the age of 3. Matter of fact, me and my older sister were both adopted by our grandparents. As a matter of fact, their names, my grandparents' names, are on our birth certificates. And that's why our last name is Arnold. You see, our mom was not really in our life. You know, she was there every now and then. But our fathers, we never knew our fathers. And we had 2 different dads. Never knew our dads. Never. And so, because we were raised by our grandparents, we didn't get a lot of stuff that a lot of our friends were privy to. You know, a lot of our friends, and me and my sister both played sports in high school, but it was different for us than it was for our friends, because the reason I say that is because our grandparents wasn't going to be sitting up in the stands cheering for us, because they felt like they had better things to do. You know, they weren't into all of this sports stuff or getting behind your children and rooting them on. So, you know, we didn't have all that. And then all we could do was wonder how that would feel to be able to look up in the stands after scoring a touchdown or after hitting a 3-pointer, to see our parents waving at us and telling us, way to go, way to go, way to go. But we never had that. And you know, we could have gave up and said, forget it. It ain't even worth it. But we kept pushing. We kept pushing, trying to be the best that we could possibly be, regardless of our parents not being there for us. We know we still had our grandparents, and they did the best that they could possibly do for us. Kudos to my grandparents, who I love with all my heart, soul, and my mind, because they did everything that they could for me and my sister. And a big shout out also to my Aunt Juanita. She lived in California. She didn't live in Alabama. But she was sending money back to my grandparents to help them take care of us. She would send money. She would send toys. She would even send for us during the summer months to fly back to California so she could spend time with us. That was our aunt. That was our aunt who had no children of her own, but treated us as if we were her own children. And she made sure my grandmother and grandfather had everything that they needed in order to provide for us. Now, we got Social Security because we didn't have our dads in our life. So since our grandparents took care of us and adopted us, we were able to get Social Security checks. And out of those Social Security checks, we got $5 allowance. Only $5 a month. That was once a month. And when we got those $5, that was the only time we would be allowed to go to any fast food restaurant. The only time. And every month, I remember me and my sister choosing McDonald's. And we talking about back in the 70s. We would choose McDonald's and we would be just as happy and as content as we wanted to be because we got the opportunity to go to McDonald's once a month. That was a privilege for us. And we really appreciated our grandparents for allowing us to go to McDonald's. Because I'm going to tell you, it ain't like it is today. Let me ask y'all something. How many of you guys can go into your parents' home, go in the kitchen, and cook what you wanted to cook? Even after your parents have already prepared a meal for you guys, and you figure, well, I don't want that, so I'm going to cook what I want to cook. How many of you guys can just go in the kitchen and cook after your parents already cooked for you? See, it wasn't like that in my grandparents' home. If you didn't eat what my grandmother prepared, you didn't eat at all. It was just like that. You had to eat. If you was going to eat that day, you had to eat whatever she prepared that day. And if you didn't, you were out of luck because you're not going to go behind her in her kitchen cooking after she already cooked for the family. It wasn't going to happen. So a lot of things that you guys are able to do today, we weren't able to do that when I was growing up. But let me tell you this. We respected our parents, our grandparents. We did not talk back to them. What they said, when they said something, they meant it. And we knew they meant it. And we knew they weren't playing no games with us. How many of you guys out there can talk back to your parents? How many of you guys talk back to your parents with no repercussion? Meaning you don't have to worry about them punishing you because you talk back. Yeah. See, this is new day and age. It wasn't like that when I was coming up. You didn't get no a chance to. If you talk back to your parents, then you might as well get ready to get hit upside your head. I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it real again. You might want to be ducking because you about to find a shoe coming at you. I mean, anything that they could pick up at that particular time, you was going to get hit with it. So you might as well not even open your mouth to say anything back to your parents. My grandparents didn't play, and my grandfather definitely didn't play. You gave him respect, and you gave my grandmother respect in their home. And they was not going to be disrespected by anybody, especially people that they was taking care of. So, let me tell you this. So, like I said about me and my sister's dads, we had two different dads. She never knew her dad. I never knew my dad. So, we growing up without fathers. And so, my grandmother and my grandfather was strict. But as time went on in our life, you know, they couldn't really enforce anything up on us because they got older. They got older. And so I was out there just doing whatever it is I wanted to do. I can remember. I can remember when I got into selling drugs. Yep, I got into selling drugs. Yep, I did a total 180 from the way I was raised. Because so many of my friends was out there having sex. They were out there cursing, they was drinking. And right now, I'm probably about in the 11th grade, drinking wine, beer, alcohol. So I'm out there just experimenting with life. You know, out there living reckless at a young age. Having kids in the 11th grade. I had 2 kids in the 11th grade. So I'm out there experimenting with life, doing whatever it is I wanted to do. You know, and I can remember getting into the drug game. I can remember falling on hard times and not feeling like I had nowhere to turn. And a friend of mine knew my situation. And he told me, he said, hey man, I got a way out for you. And I know you don't want to take it because I know you weren't raised like this. And see, my friend was always in the drug game. Even in high school, he sold drugs and, you know, he was like a kingpin from where I was from. So he gave me that opportunity to get on my feet. And at first, I told him, hey man, ain't no way in the world I can disappoint my grandmother and grandfather by selling drugs for you. There's no way in the world. I'm not doing it. He said, hey man, I just want to present the opportunity for you. I said, no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. That ain't gonna happen. So, after thinking about it for about 2 or 3 weeks, my life wasn't getting no better. I decided to call him up. I said, hey man, I think I'm gonna have to take you up on that offer. So, he gave me some drugs to sell. And he told me, he said, just give me back what my drugs cost and you can keep the profit off the drugs. So that's what I did. And when I got through selling that, he said, you want to do another one? He said, I'll give you some more to sell. I sold them for him, gave the drug money to him, and kept the profit. He said, now he told me, he said, the next time you decide to do this, you're going to have to buy the whole thing on your own. I'm not giving you no more drugs because now you should have enough money to buy your own. I really didn't want to get too involved in this drug game, but the money came so quick. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. And I bought drugs. And that one more time led to one more time. And that one more time led to one more time. And so forth and so on. Until I found myself not being able to break away from it. Selling drugs had became my life. And I was liking every minute of it. I was loving every minute of the drug game. So, I'm out there selling drugs. And now, I done came up so far that I can now have people selling for me. We call them runners. They come get the drugs. We supply the drugs. And they go out and they run. And they do everything they can for you because they know who smoke drugs and who don't smoke drugs. So they know the right person to come to with the drugs to sell. Listen, guys. I don't wish drug selling on my worst enemy. You are constantly having to watch your back. You don't know who's going to take you out. You don't know when 5-0 is going to roll up on you. You don't know when undercover is scoping you out. You just don't know. you put your life in a very, very dangerous situation. So, don't do it. I'm telling you, do not do it. Do not sell drugs. And you hearing that from somebody that actually sold drugs, that was actually in the game. Don't do it. So anyway, I can remember one day walking into my grandmother's house and seeing her on her knees praying for me, calling my name, praying for me. And as soon as I heard that, I turned right around and walked right back out the door. I said, I do not want to hear this. I do not want to hear it. I got in my car. I went to my friend's house. I picked him up. I said, hey man, let's just ride out. He got in the car. We rode out. We went to the liquor store. We drinking, driving. Drinking, driving. Now we know that's a no-no. Because not only are we putting ourselves in a bad situation, now we drinking and driving and getting drunk and could possibly take somebody else's life while we out here living dangerously. And that's a no-no. But we did it. That's what we done. Because we were knuckleheads. We didn't have no direction in life. We wanted fast money. We wanted women. We want whatever money brought us. And that's what we chased after. And so I can remember being just as tipsy and driving and going to this housing project that we never should have been in because it was actually the wrong side of the tracks. I was in somebody else's territory. And when they looked up and they saw me, they thought I was over there moving on their drug territory. So what they did was, as soon as I pulled up to the housing project, they surrounded me, came up to my car and said, what are you doing over here? Now, mind you, I'm drunk. So it ain't me in my right mind. It's me allowing the alcohol to take control of my mind. Now I'm doing things that I wouldn't ordinarily do had I been sober. So he came up to me, the guy that was over this gang, he came up to me and I stepped out the car. Why would I get out the car? Alcohol. Alcohol. Soon as I stepped out the car, he hit me as hard as he could on the side of my jaw. And I went down and I got back up and I looked at my cousin and I was like, bro, what happened? And my cousin was like, man, he just hit you. He just cold cocked you and knocked you out. I said, man, oh my God. I said, my cousin said, let's go. Get back in the car, man. He said, man, I'm driving. I said, no, I'm driving. And he said, no, I'm driving. I said, no, this is my car. I'm driving. And so I jumped back in the car, man. When I got in the car, the guy told me, he said, man, you got 10 seconds to be up out of here before I turn my boys loose on you. It was about 6 of them with guns. Now listen, this is alcohol talking. Instead of me backing up and going on out while I had the opportunity, I allowed this alcohol to say, man, don't let them punk you like that. Don't you leave here without trying to do something to them. And so instead of me, like I said, backing up and leaving, instead, I put my 1984 Ford Mustang in first gear, jumped the curb, and tried to run over anybody that got in my way. And as soon as I jumped that curb, they started shooting at my car. I mean, she unloaded on my car. You could hear the bullets bouncing off the doors, bouncing off the hood and everything. And my cousin was like, man, get us out of here. And I was down under the steering wheel, trying to steer up out of the housing project. And thank God we were able to get out of there unscathed. I took my cousin home. I apologized to him. Now that the bullets had started flying, we ain't drunk no more. We done sobered up. We ain't drunk no more. We trying to get up out of there. We know exactly what's going on. And we know exactly what we needed to do. Get out of there as fast as we could. And that's what we did. We got up out of there as fast as we could. And thank God he brought us out of there. But listen, I dropped my cousin off. I went home, parked the car, wobbled my way inside the house, laid down, went to sleep. Got up the next day. Now listen at this. Got up the next day, walked outside, looked at my car. It wasn't a bullet hole on my car nowhere. Me and my cousin, and this wasn't alcohol, we actually heard the bullets bouncing off my Ford Mustang. We actually heard it. But when I got home and woke up the next day and looked at my car, there wasn't a bullet hole on it. You can't even tell it was hit by bullets. I knew from that day forward that it was time for me to change my life. I knew from that day forward that the prayers that my grandmother was praying for me was actually covering me on that night. I knew it. I knew it, and I knew it was time for me to change my life. And that's what I did. I no longer did anything, sold drugs. I cut out drinking. Everything that wasn't good for me, I left it alone. That next day. Because I realized, had it not been for my grandmother's prayers, I would have died at that housing project. Me and my cousin. And that was a wake-up call for me. And here's the thing. Why am I telling you this? Because I don't want any of you guys to have to travel that road that I traveled. And that's why I sit here on this stool speaking to each and every one of you about what not to do with your life. You might not get a second chance. If you decide to sell drugs, if you decide to drink and drive, you might not ever get the opportunity that I got, a second chance. It's not even worth you experimenting. Don't even think about it. Whatever career choice you have for your life, go after that. There's no dream that's too small. There's no dream that's too big. Go after what you want in life. Do not travel the road that I traveled. I went through that so you wouldn't have to go through it. I went through that so I could tell you my story so you wouldn't have to go through what I went through. I was lucky. I'm lucky to be here today, sitting on this stool, talking to you about my life. I'm lucky. Don't do it. Don't even entertain it. So let me tell you this. After I changed my life for the better, remember now, I told you I grew up without a mom and a dad. So I was at my grandmother's house one day. Now this is after my grandfather had passed away. He died of cancer. And that really hurt me to my core because he was the only dad that I ever knew in my life. My granddad was the only dad that I ever knew. And that hurt me to my core when he passed away from cancer. So I'm at my grandmother's house a couple of years later, and I took a nap at her house. And I heard her say, Keith. And when she said Keith, it was a different type of way she called my name. And when she said it, the way she said it, I knew something was wrong. And I immediately, I jumped up. I ran into her room and she was clutching her chest. And I said, Mama, what's wrong? Because I called her Mama. I didn't call her grandmother. I called her Mama. All my life, I called my grandmother Mama. And I said, Mama, what's wrong? And she said, I think I'm having a heart attack. When she said that, everything I knew about CPR and everything, I knew I had CPR training. But when that happened, when she said that, I didn't know nothing. I drew a blank. Everything went out the window. She had to tell me, because I was in panic mode, she had to tell me to call 911 while she was having a hard time breathing. I called 911. I went out. My aunt stayed. My aunt that was from California, as a matter of fact, she had moved back to Alabama. So I went and got her. She ran out there. We called 911. The ambulance came and got my grandmother. About an hour later, after they had arrived to the hospital, my neighbor from across the street, I saw her walking across the street. And when she was walking across the street, I already knew. I already knew what she was going to tell me. She said, Keith, your grandmama didn't make it. That was my mama. That was my mama. I'm telling you. When she told me that, I was no good. I was no good. So, we had the funeral and everything. And God gave me peace. After the first day, after she passed away, the next day, God gave me peace. He allowed me to have that pity party the day she died. But the next day, he gave me peace with that thing. And he was telling me that your grandmother is okay. She's going to be okay. And when I got that, that's all I needed. When I got that confirmation, that was all I needed. And so now, fast forward a couple of years, I met my second wife. Who is responsible for me being where I am today in my life. She has really been a godsend for me. She helped me to find my dad after 54 years of not knowing him. Now let me tell you a little bit about that. All my life I never knew my dad. I only knew what my mom told me about my dad. My mom would tell me what she could remember from 1966. So the little information I had, I would share with my wife, and we would try to find my dad, try to go online and try to figure out if we can figure out the family members or whatever. His last name was Johnson, or so I thought. So we tried to connect with all these Johnsons, and we never could get anywhere. So one day I'm watching TV, and there was a show on called Long Lost Family. So Long Lost Family was it was a show about people being reunited with their family members after long periods of time. And so I shared my story with Long Lost Family. And they decided that they want to help me find my dad. And so they sent me a DNA kit. And I took that DNA test and I sent it back to them. And they sent me the results of the DNA kit. So I was trying to reach out to some relatives that I was connected to on the DNA kit, and no one seemed to know who Johnsons were. Johnson. We trying to find Johnsons, and Pope families coming up. And so we were trying to figure out, well, maybe the Pope family is related to the Johnson family somehow. We all connected, we all related. And so nobody in the Pope family knew who the Johnsons were. And so finally, we got a breakthrough. And we were able to contact the man that my mom had told me all my life was my dad. We finally made a connection. So, my mom was like, my wife was like, man, I think we found your dad. And so we contacted him. And when I contacted him through email, because I couldn't get a phone number for him. And I was telling him my story, who I was or whatever. He replied to the email, there's no way I can be your dad. You better keep looking. Or you better go back and talk to your mom again, because there's no way I could be your dad. When he told me that, guys, have you guys ever seen The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Well, you remember this one particular episode where Will finally found his dad, and he thought he was going to be able to go off with his dad, and his dad went off and left him without him knowing, and how crushed Will was when he found out that his daddy had left him. When that guy denied me being his son, I felt just like Will. Probably felt even worse. I told my wife, that's it. I'm done. I am done with this search. This guy done denied me, said I wasn't his dad, I wasn't his son, and I'm done with it. I'm through. Now, if you want to keep looking, you keep looking, but I'm done. Man, I was crushed. I was hurt that this man that my mom told me was my dad had denied me. My wife said, no, we're not giving up that easy. We are not giving up that easy. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. And she, man, I thank God for my wife, because she kept pushing me to not give up. She kept encouraging me. She kept giving me hope, saying, don't give up. Don't give up. And so I told her, I said, I'm done. I can remember going to work one day and coming home, checking the mailbox. When I looked into the mailbox, it was a DNA kit in there. Now, the first DNA kit I took was from Ancestry.com. This particular DNA kit that was in the mailbox was from 23andMe. And so I came in the house and I called my wife, because my wife was at work. And I said, hey, babe, I said, there's a DNA kit in the mailbox. You know anything about this? She said, yeah, I ordered another kit. Go ahead and take it so we can see. I said, Angela, I told you I was done with this. And she said, well, I already done ordered the kit now, so you might as well go and take it. I'm like, oh my God. So because I didn't want to waste her money, I went ahead on the ticket and we sent it back in. This DNA test came back a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks later, matching the same DNA kit from Ancestry.com. and it's coming back to popes. So we still trying to figure out how in the world is popes connected to Johnsons. So my wife was able to contact the Pope family, somebody in the Pope family. And she was telling them about my story and everything. And this one particular guy said, yeah, I think I had some uncles that was in California around 1966. He said, let me reach out to them, or let me reach out to one of their sons and see if we can figure out this thing. So that's what happened. Keeping a long story short, and believe me, it's a long story, and I'm shortening it down for you guys. Come to find out, the guy's uncle, who was Kent Pope, was actually in California around 1966 and remembered my mom and said that, yeah, me and your mom had like a 3-month relationship or whatever, but she left and went back to Alabama. And so I said, Mr. Pope, I said, would you be willing to take a DNA test? Because he lives in Kansas City. I said, would you be willing to take a DNA test in Kansas City? I'll pay for it if you take it up there, and I'll take another one here in Georgia. We'll take it on the same day at the same time. And that's what we did. A couple weeks later, the results came back. I opened up the paper, and it said that we was 99.9999% match. That Kent Pope was my dad. So the person that my mom was telling me was my dad all my life turned out to not be my dad. And so I finally found my dad after 54 years. We've been knowing each other for 2 years now. But after 54 years of living, I finally found my dad. So I'm telling you guys this part of my story to encourage you to never ever give up. I don't care what you believe in for. I don't care what your goals are, and it seems like your goals are not going to be met. Don't give up. If you're searching for somebody, don't give up. Whatever the case may be, do not give up. There is hope. There is hope. Get somebody in your corner that's going to push you to not give up. That's not going to allow you to give up. That's going to help you reach those goals and reach those dreams and be who you want to be in life. Look, it took me 54 years to finally conclude that, get the conclusion on who my dad was. 54 years. And had I not had my wife in my life pushing me, telling me that we're going to find your dad, she never gave up. She was very persistent. She had, I'm just going to be honest with you, she had more faith than I had in myself. She had more faith in me than I had in myself. And she went the extra mile trying to help me find my dad. And that's what she did. And I'm telling you, you got to have, in life, you got to have somebody in your corner that will not allow you to give up on yourself. That will not allow you to give up on your dreams, on your goals. Get somebody in your life that's going to push you to greatness. That's going to push you to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. When times get hard, when times get tough, when it seems like you can't go no further, you're going to need that person to keep pushing you. I thank God again for my wife. I thank her for pushing me. And what happened to me and for me could definitely happen for you. You're still in school. You got the chance to make a difference in the lives of people that you meet every day, in the lives of people that you come in contact with. And you can't do that selling drugs, being addicted to alcohol, doing everything under the sun that you know you're not supposed to be doing. You have to be the best person that you can possibly be, not only for yourself, but for other people as well. I realize now that I had to go through what I went through in life in order to be a blessing to you guys. I had to. I have 3 boys and 3 girls, and they're all grown. I have always been in their life because the one thing I said was that I'm not gonna not be in their life like their daddy was, like my daddy was not in my life. I'm gonna always be a part of their life, and I've always been a part of their life, and I wouldn't have it no other way. Some of you are without your dads. Some of you are without your moms. Don't let that stop you from being great. Don't let that stop you from being the best you that you could possibly be. Nobody can beat you being you. You're young. You're just getting started. Don't settle for less. Please, don't settle for less. I appreciate you guys. I thank you for listening to me. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak life into you. I thank you for allowing me to be transparent with my own life. I hope that this message, that my story that I told to you will help you as you mature in life. I hope it's something that I said that you can reach back on and think about and apply it to your own life. Again, I'm going to tell you, do everything within your power and within the law, because I don't want nobody here breaking the law like I did. I don't want you to have to go through all of that stuff that I went through. And that's why I was so transparent with you. I don't want you to have to go through that. Because again, I made it out. If you choose to travel that road that I traveled, you might not make it out. You might not get that second opportunity that I got. So don't even start something that you might not be able to make it out of. Don't even start it, because it's not worth it. And not only are you going to let yourself down, you're going to let a lot of people that love you down as well. The graveyard, and let me say this in closing. The graveyard is one of the richest places on earth. Why? Why do you think the graveyard is one of the richest places on earth? I'll tell you. Because so many dreams died in the graveyard. So many hopes died in the graveyard. Musicians that didn't get the opportunity to perform are dead. Singers that didn't get the chance to sing on stage are dead. Because they gave up on themselves. They had all this talent that was wasted. and they took that talent to the grave. Don't let that be you. Please don't let that be you. You are too valuable to this world. Greatness lives inside of you. Don't ever forget what I'm telling you here today. You are somebody. Always believe that. No matter what anyone tells you, you have potential. That's my time. Thank you for having me. Take care.